night, Amorim was scathing about his level of effort, claiming he would rather put the club's 63-year-old goalkeeper coach on the bench than the forward.
It's always the same reason. So the reason is the training, the way I see what a footballer should do in training, in life, and is every detail. So if things don't change, I will not change. It's the same situation for every player. If you do the maximum, if you do the right things, we can use every player. Today on the bench, we miss a little bit like pace to go, to change the game, to move some pieces, but I prefer like that. I will put Vital before I put a player that don't give the maximum every day. So I will not change in that department.
Wow, pretty damning words, really. He's never gone that far before, and he pointedly picked it out, his goalkeeper coach there. When you hear that, is there any way back for Marcus Rashford now at Manchester United?
It's looking increasingly difficult. You know, of course, with what can happen with the contract situations and the fees and numbers that are involved in trying to make this still happen, we're always going to be tough. When the manager is coming out so publicly as well, at a time when Marcus Rashford is looking for a challenge elsewhere, they are very, very damning words. They really, really are. And he's making it clear that he's still not seeing from Marcus Rashford what he believes is the right attitude, the right application, the right intensity in training, the right way of doing things. And I was quite surprised to see Ruben Amorim go down that line again. I mean, it's very obvious that Marcus Rashford's not in the squad. He's not going to be in the squad until something is sorted out. So to go that strong, especially after offering up the headline that he offered last week, which we were all talking about,
hasn't he?
He's now dropped another nugget in, and it was the last question of the presser as well. And Manchester United had won the match. So I'm not saying he's wrong for doing that. It's clearly his observation, but it's another damning indictment from the manager in terms of where Marcus Rashford's head's at right now and how he's coming across in training.
The thing is, though, Dan, he doesn't seem to be any closer to leaving. We heard a few days ago now that it's getting more complicated for Marcus Rashford to leave in January. What happens if no club comes in with a viable offer before next Monday night?
Well, from what we've understood this whole window, Marcus Rashford would be happy to stay at Manchester United and continue to fight for a place. We've seen him on social media when they have won games or even before games wishing the team luck. But I do think it's worth just recapping that this isn't just based off what Ruben Amorim has said just last night. I mean, Marcus Rashford did start the first two games under Amorim's reign. We can see there him again congratulating the team after that Fulham win. But as I mentioned, he started the first two Premier League games under Amorim. He then came off the bench in the following two. But then he did that interview with Henry Winter saying, for me personally, I think I'm ready for a new challenge and the next steps. He hasn't featured since then. He was on the bench in one game but didn't come on then. So there is kind of a precursor to everything that's happened since that interview. That's when he hasn't been involved since. And what Amorim is saying, and he'll argue that what he was talking about yesterday applies to every member of that squad. He needs to see commitment. He needs to see that every day in training, on and off the pitch. And clearly he's putting a message to the whole squad, not just to Marcus.
What I do find really interesting as well, though, and is it counterproductive? I'm not sure, but it's just an observation that Marcus Rashford being in this present moment of not producing the goods, apparently to Ruben Amorim, he's still training with the first team.
Yeah.
He hasn't been
exiled.
It's not that, well, it's such a bad impact on the rest of the group with what I'm trying to build here. We already don't have time to train as it is. So why am I going to have somebody like Marcus Rashford in this mindset in and around the first team? He's not ostracised him. He's not put him to train by himself or with the younger players or away on individual training, which I do find interesting with that level of criticism where you're not making the matchday squads, but you're still deemed professional enough to be around this setup as the team's trying to move forward. That was an interesting observation. And is that the hierarchy from Ineos saying, you can't go too far because if we have him ostracised, then it's more difficult to move him on. But at the same time, Ruben Amorim's also coming out publicly and saying what he's saying, which he's right to, because that's his observation. But for him to still be in first team training, how bad is it? So it's another mess.
Yeah,
it really is.
And it could get messier. I want to bring Molly and Manny in on this? Because if Rashford is going to get his move in January, clearly some compromises need to be made. But where do those compromises need to be made and by who?